this retreat, our first retreat in the new commission with the new financial rules in place, with the renewed commitment to performing all the responsibilities assigned to this committee by the policy organs. I wish to reiterate our support as a commission to working with you and your distinguished experts alongside the whole cycle of the financial life of the Union in line with the financial rules. I wish also to keep requesting of you, of your valuable time. Each time we'll be calling upon you so that indeed the Union can enjoy your wisdom and your vast expertise and for the interest of us all. Maybe I can't end without thanking everyone else, including those who have supported us, made this work possible, the invisible faces, our translators, our interpreters, everyone who has supported this retreat to be a success it has been. Lastly, to our host minister, allow that we extend through you our grateful to His Majesty, the King of the Kingdom of Morocco, the entire government, the people, and your good self for really making this happen. We look forward to another meeting, in a statutory meeting of yours sometime this July ahead of the Executive Council. Thank you.
It's now my pleasure to invite the Honorable Minister from Morocco to the high table. So, okay. But I think so that everybody can see you, it makes a lot of sense for you to speak from here. You've been a very generous guest, host rather, huh?
Honorable invité, nous arrivions donc au terme de ces 2 journées de retraite tant attendues. Je pense que nous avons eu un échange extrêmement riche et très intéressant. Et je pense que nous avons collectivement rempli la mission qui était la nôtre pour discuter des solutions, on va dire, de financement pérenne et durable pour l'Union africaine et plus globalement des solutions de financement pérennes et innovantes pour les grands défis de notre continent, dont la gestion des incertitudes causées par cette crise, mais plus globalement l'agenda de 2063. Donc je voulais, au nom des autorités de mon pays, remercier tous ceux qui ont été présents avec nous pendant ces 2 jours et qui nous ont honorés de leur présence, et remercier ceux qui ont participé également à distance, et en espérant qu'on ne seront toujours plus nombreux et plus unis dans notre prochaine réunion de ces retraites. Je voudrais également remercier Madame la vice-présidente, l'ensemble de ses équipes, l'ensemble de ses experts qui ont préparé, soutenu la préparation de cette réunion qui a permis en fait d'être une réunion de qualité. Je voudrais également remercier Monsieur le Président qui a été désigné volontaire hier matin et qui a conduit ces réunions avec brio. Merci beaucoup pour ces interventions. Et pour ne pas être trop longue, je voulais vous confirmer, vous réaffirmer, si besoin est, l'engagement du Royaume du Maroc sous le leadership de Sa Majesté le Roi, que Dieu l'assiste, pour contribuer au rayonnement de tous les organes de l'Union africaine et notamment à travers donc ce groupe du F15 qui a une mission extrêmement importante et qui, je suis certaine, avec de tous, la remplira au mieux dans les prochaines semaines, les prochains mois, pour aider toutes les autres instances de l'Union africaine de contribuer au développement, à la paix des pays du continent. Je vous remercie.
Colleagues, honorable ministers, senior officials, all protocols observed, it gives me great pleasure once again and to confirm that we've had a very successful retreat of F-15 ministers. From the onset, I want to thank the AU and the Kingdom of Morocco for organizing this important retreat and for according us, the policymakers, an opportunity to interact as we make sense in a global context that is confronted with several challenges at the moment. As underpinned by one of the speakers yesterday, Dr. Donald Kaberuka, the choice of this theme could not have been any better as it afforded us an opportunity and also gave us convenient space to engage in a critical dialogue which speaks directly to the fundamental matter of resilience of the African economies, especially against the emerging and negatively impacting events, which requires that we swiftly and collectively rethink our development approach as a continent. As we bring this retreat to a close, allow me to highlight a few areas emanating from the discussion which underline the key areas that requires quite urgent actions. One, member states should take practical and concrete measures to finance the budget of the African Union in the spirit of self-reliance. I don't think we really need to overemphasize this because independence and self-reliance is the hallmark of the pride and integrity of any institution. Secondly, the African Union Commission shall intensify technical and advisory support to member states in the implementation of the recommendations that we place before us, including the 0.2% import levy mechanism in harmony with their national laws. Thirdly, we are committed to foster effective cooperation within and across our respective jurisdictions and intensify efforts to build economies that are more resilient to food insecurity, that will confront the challenges of price distortions in the commodity markets and disruption in the supply chain of petroleum products and fertilizers, which are key concern and discussion for every cabinet of our respective countries. Fourthly, we stress the importance of AFCFTA as a vehicle to promote inclusive economic development, including the promises of multiple benefits, ranging from the promotion of industrialization and enhanced value chain systems in critical sectors of agriculture, manufacturing, energy, and services, as well as rapid development in infrastructure and digital technologies, human capital, among others. Fifthly, we agree that we shall strengthen our collaboration with the African Union Commission and deepen engagement to support the ongoing budget and financial reforms aimed at attaining the highest fiduciary transparency and accountability standards in the utilization of the financial resources. You are aware this has been a very key and heated debate because we make contribution to the AU, not that we do not have key priorities, but we have shelved some of the priorities to support our own institutions, and therefore it's incumbent upon the people who are entrusted with the resources to be more accountable, transparent, and ensure that we're able to see results for what we undertake. We pledge to support the role of development financial institutions in the global financial architecture as they leverage their collective financial capacity to support the implementation of national and regional development plans. Further, I really want to applaud all of us for adopting a communique and declaration, for adopting a communique that are broad enough in scope and sanctioned, paving way for practical steps to be undertaken across the African Union, regional economic communities, and member states in the spirit of subsidiarity. And with that, Excellencies, I wish to sincerely thank, on behalf of my colleague, Honorable Tahir Ahmed Ngulini, the chairperson of the committee of 15 ministers of finance, and the Minister of Finance and Budget of the Republic of Chad, who should have been with us, but I think we got communication more or less early yesterday that he will not make it for this important meeting. And I really want to thank him for championing the spirit of the F-15. And I also really want to thank our host who has been gracious, quite gracious enough, our colleague, Honorable Minister, and the Republic, the government of Kingdom of Morocco, for according us warm hospitality, for taking our time to be with us almost throughout. I know the demand on our time at this particular juncture, but we really want to thank you in a very special way for making us feel at home, away from our own various jurisdictions. I wish to extend a special mention and sincere gratitude to the Minister, as I indicated earlier, for our selfless facilitation for this annual retreat and unquestionable support to the activities of this respectable committee of 15 of ministers. I wish also to express my gratitude to the Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission for our determination and unwavering commitment to support the F-15, particularly the remarkable efforts to point to us the critical areas of concern that require urgent attention. Your Excellency, this committee greatly appreciates your effort, and we say thank you to you and to all of us. Because without our direct participation, then the reason as to establishment of this will have not met the required standard. And to you, Honorable Ministers and distinguished heads of delegations, including our esteemed technical experts, invited guests, High Commissioners, ambassadors, and the Commission staff, I extend my sincere gratitude and heartfelt appreciation for the candid and enriching discussions which have made our retreat successful. And you see, we also had an opportunity to critique ourselves. Some maybe as a point of future recommendations that we need to process the experts' positions way in advance, so that when you come here, we just make decisions, but not to really engage on matters that have not been fully processed. It has been a great pleasure to chair this esteemed gathering, and I want to thank you all for according me the respect and the audience to effectively manage this very important meeting. I wish you all safe journey back home, and when you go back, we stay in touch. I know the prevailing economic circumstances dictates close collaboration, interaction, and information sharing, because the problems we see in Kenya and the problems we see in any part of your countries are more or less the same. We're dealing with fuel prices, we're dealing with fertilizer prices, we're dealing with grain prices, we are dealing with high inflations, the increase in logistics costs. These are matters that is not within the domain of one country, and we'll always gain from each other by interacting, by engaging each other as required. I want to thank you in a very special way and wish you well in the years ahead. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening to me. And very sorry if at some stage I was more of a dictator, because I really wanted us to navigate, because there are quite a number of of colleagues who are leaving. I didn't want even South Africa to leave, but I think we lost the timing just by just a few minutes. So thank you once again, and I need to be guided by on how we're going to deal with the media briefing. I think my suggestion is that our experts, I don't know, maybe the host, can be doing the briefing on our behalf. That's okay? The next stage,
Thank you, Chair.
or maybe it's not necessary, that we can go for lunch now.
The next step, we move to media briefing at media room, to the room adjacent to this one. I submit. After, we'll proceed with the lunch.
I am advised that I think it doesn't require all of us. The rest can just proceed for lunch. Yeah.
let them make at least one short statement each and then.
They request to do a short statement before they start asking questions.
Why not direct question? Actually, I'm really in a hurry.
Okay, okay. Please proceed with questions.
Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me this floor. Thank you for giving me the floor. I am Severin. I work for Africa 24. And my question is all about knowing what is the current status of the African Union's founding need. That's my question. And also, I would like to know what are some of the recommendations that have been putting out of this meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. As you know, the F-15 finance ministers of AU were gathered here in Rabat, Morocco, for the last 2 days, where we have effectively engaged on a number of issues. But the key among them is the financing of the AU. We've realized over time that as a body, AU plays a critical role in the socio-economic and political setup of the continent by emphasizing on the issue of solidarity and togetherness, and also collectively build our economies in a way that's going to benefit the entire globe and entire continent. But over time, the funding has remained below expectations. So what we did is that we came up with a practical funding to manage the budget of the AU. We've come up with a pragmatic approach in emphasizing on the budget and the funding to the organization. Number two, we also came up with a certain innovative approach in enabling countries to do the necessary contribution, the necessary disbursement to the Commission. How we have done it is that they've been a proposal which has been adopted by a number of countries, that we impose import levy of 0.2% that now act as a collecting fund to enable countries disburse their contribution in good time. Thirdly, we also discussed about shared experience on how best we are going to support our economies to be resilient in view of the adverse nature of the prevailing economic circumstances. You know the challenge of COVID, the problem brought by Russia-Ukraine conflict that has led to a number of challenges, including increasing the cost of logistics of transportation of import-exports. Number two, there are also a serious problem of availability of grain. There's been increase in fertilizer prices, and generally also globally, fuel prices has been on the rise. So we've shared a number of areas on how best we can support to enable our economies to be resilient in a challenging situation like this. A number of recommendations were agreed upon that we are going to now advance to the Executive Council for further consideration by the Assembly when they sit in April. We've come up with a quite pragmatic approach. Additionally, we've also agreed to support the reform initiative of the AU. There are a number of reforms that are currently undergoing on dealing with issues of budget and funding. We resolve as finance ministers to support and ensure that these reforms reflect the realities of the time. I think basically those are the areas that we have covered, and we are keen. We want to thinking of also expanding this committee to make sure that all the various criteria are taken on board without losing the principle of solidarity and brotherhood as a continent. There are certain countries that have been in Tier 1 who have been making significant contribution to the budget of the Union. But now we felt that, the principle around the establishment of AU is not necessarily about the ability to pay, but it's about making sure that no country is left behind despite the size of their economy or the ability to do. So we've come up with a mix of all these criteria so that whatever decision we make is reflective of all our position as a continent. We also touched on the issue of the peace fund, where we think as a continent, we have a responsibility and a duty of care to our neighbors, to our brothers, to any part of the continent that is in challenge, experiencing security challenge. We've agreed on how to go about it, and we expressed firm solidarity to ensure that, we have a responsibility to ourselves and to the rest of the continent by establishing, establishing and strengthening this dimension. But some of the decision, we made the necessary proposal, but a decision to be made at the assembly level. I think those are the basically areas that we've discussed. The meeting has been well attended by a number of ministers from various regions, south, west, east, north, central. They have been quite effectively attended by the relevant ministers. I think those are the areas that I wanted to bring to your attention, and I thank you.
Bonjour, c'est Safa Abnor de l'AMAP. Alors ma question, quels sont les nouveaux mécanismes que vous avez prôné et adopté lors de vos discussions, tout en tenant compte du nouveau contexte empreint à la fois de la pandémie et de la crise ukrainienne? Merci. Alors, ma question, quels sont les nouveaux mécanismes de financement que vous avez discutés et adoptés lors de vos discussions et qui tiennent compte du nouveau contexte imposé par la situation pandémique et le conflit ukrainien?
Merci. Je tenais d'abord à féliciter et remercier Monsieur le ministre qui a présidé pendant 2 jours cette retraite, qui était une première retraite du F-15 et qui a été une occasion d'échange extrêmement riche. Et Madame la vice-présidente de la Commission également. Par rapport à votre question, je pense que Monsieur le Président a déjà répondu. Je pense que l'idée n'était pas tant de trouver des nouveaux mécanismes, mais plutôt d'abord faire en sorte que ceux qui existent déjà et qui ont été convenus au niveau des chefs d'État soient plus efficaces et plus efficients. Donc nous avons les contributions des États, donc il s'agit de les avoir, on va dire, de façon régulière, en temps et en heure et de façon importante. Il y a également le prélèvement des 0,2 que Monsieur le Président vient de rappeler, donc sur les imports. Donc c'est aussi leur faisabilité, des expériences qui ont fonctionné, d'autres qui sont en cours de mise en place, en tenant compte. Donc vraiment l'idée c'est une plus grande autonomie de l'Union africaine avec les mécanismes qui existent aujourd'hui, mais les utiliser de manière efficiente quant à leur collecte, leur mise en œuvre, mais aussi dans la façon, on va dire, de gérer les investissements et les dépenses également. Donc il s'agissait plus de ça. Plus globalement, je pense qu'il s'agissait également de parler de mécanismes de financement, cette fois, des économies du continent. Et là, il y a eu plusieurs sujets sur trouver des solutions innovantes, travailler un peu plus sur les réformes, on va dire, au sein des pays, parce que ce qui compte, c'est que les revenus des pays se développent, mais également une meilleure coordination avec les institutions financières, qu'elles soient régionales ou multilatérales, pour mieux coordonner tous les efforts en faveur du financement de l'Union africaine, mais des pays et des économies des pays de l'Union africaine. Merci.
يوسف يعقوبي من هسبريس. بخصوص الأزمة الأوكرانية وتحديات الجائحة الكوفيد 19 التي يعني جمعت التي يعني التأم الاجتماع عالي رفيع المستوى يعني لوزراء مالية الاتحاد الإفريقي من أجلها. يعني كنتحدثوا يعني على أزمتين اللي خلاونا نمشيو في اتجاه لا سوفرانتي يعني اندستريال ولا سوفرانتي دو لا كونتينون يعني اون ماتيير اون سوفرانتي سانيتير يعني سيادة صحية أو سيادة غذائية يعني سوفرانتي أليمونتير. يعني شنو الإجراءات وأيضا الميكانيزمات اللي كانت يعني في هذا الاتجاه وشنو الخلاصات يعني اللي خلص إليها الاجتماع من أجل يعني الوصول للسيادة الحديث عن سيادة القارة الإفريقية لما لا يعني في المجال الغذائي وفي المجال الصحي. شكرا.
Thank you for the question. I'll answer in English. I'm still learning the language. Okay. It's a general question you asked. The sovereignty of the continent is very important. And this conversation has taken place at 2 levels at least. We had a consideration of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area as one of the key achievements of the continent that needs to be supported further because it boasts of opportunities to industrialize, to trade among ourselves, to create jobs, to reduce poverty. A number of 100 million citizens of this continent by 2035 could be taken out of poverty if we focus on the implementation of this program. That's one area. But it means that a lot has to be done in terms of improving production and productivity. That is including across all the sectors, agriculture, industrialization, but also the services industry and an environment for doing business cross borders, implementation of the infrastructure development programs we have as African Union, so that indeed movement of people, movement of goods, movement of services can be done, including also the digitalization, the digital economy, which is another key area. Another aspect that has been mentioned indeed is the capacity of member states to raise their resources, to expand their fiscal space, so that we can contribute to the resilience of their economies and therefore indirectly support the efforts at the continental level. So these are some of the aspects that transpired in the different discussions and presentations. We were thrilled to see that everyone is actually speaking to this possibility we have as Africa to, if we really did a few things to see our capacity to sustain ourselves increase. Of course, this does not mean that we don't need to partner. Partnership is important. Another theme that transpired is how we can also leverage the international markets. How can we claim a space in the global financial architecture a little bit more through empowering our financial institutions on the continent and also speaking with one voice. I think that those are some of the things that were discussed. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to add one more emphasis here, is that as alluded to by one of the speakers yesterday, when there are crises, there's a global crisis like what we saw about COVID, the challenges now in the war, that at the end of the day, Africa is on its own. And therefore, the solution also lies here. And one of the key areas of roadmap to getting appropriate solution is by enhancing interconnectivity, by enhancing trade, and the necessary infrastructure between ourselves. And that's why AFCFTA wants us to address that we need to have policy harmonization, we need to have common customs, we need to connect our countries, we need to trade with each other, and we need to facilitate the movement of goods and services appropriately. Through this, then we'll be able now to not only share experience, but also facilitate flow of all these necessary arrangements. That is very, very important. We've seen actually even when at the onset of the challenge of COVID, and there was scarcity in vaccine, Africa was the last to get it. You only get the surplus, but because you are not a priority. And therefore, that's why it's really important that we need to have completely an about turn on how we need to invest in our own relationship by making sure that, you know, we benefit from each other, by also sharing the challenges with each other with a view of getting a permanent solution. The interconnectivity is key. And that's why FCTFTA will remain an important vehicle for inclusive economic development for our region.